Just a few more days and John Wick 3 is hitting theaters. But before we talk about that film, let's go back a bit and talk about one of the milestones of the gun fu genre. But this is really not the right outfit, so wait a second. Let's talk about The Killer. Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage, and if you love action movies as much as I do, I really hope that you are familiar with the work of Hong Kong director John Woo. But if not, you are also lucky because you have some of the very best action movies ever made yet to discover. John Woo is probably the most famous director from Hong Kong, and he had a nice run in the US as well, with the Nicolas Cage / John Travolta vehicle Face Off being the highlight for sure. But even though I love that film, nothing comes close to what he had done while he was still working in Hong Kong in the 80s and early 90s. And the last one he did before he worked in the States is his 1992 action masterpiece Hard Boiled, which is probably my favorite action film of all time. It stars the Hong Kong legends Chow Yun-fat and Tony Leung, and it has a body count of over 300, which is absolutely nuts. It's without question my favorite one of his, and yet I chose a different film for today. If you are new to John Woo, I think you should save Hard Boiled for later, and The Killer is probably even more iconic. It's also the 13th anniversary this year, and apparently there's a remake in the working right now by John Woo himself, with Lupita Nyong'o in the lead. If that is really happening, it would mean a return to Hollywood, because in the last 10 years Woo has been working in Hong Kong and China again. Woo's career as a director began in the 70s, but it wasn't really until his 1986 film A Better Tomorrow that he fully embraced the style he's famous for now. He became the quintessential artist of Hong Kong action cinema, creating absolutely incredible, violent and highly stylized fireworks of pure action. He's known for his rampant shootouts, characters that are firing in mid-air, killing dozens and dozens of people, often in slow motions and edited in a way that's fast and still lets you appreciate all the craftsmanship that went into it. His films are full of amazing stunts, visual physicality, bloody gunshot wounds, breaking glass, bursting barrels, splintering wood and so on. There's a clear line from Sam Peckinpah, who he was a big admirer of, to his films, and also a clear line from his work to films like The Matrix or John Wick. But aside from all the violent action, you will also find a lot of sweet emotional melodrama in his films, and strong themes about honor and friendship. The Killer is about two men on opposite sides of the law. It stars the legendary Chow Yun-fat as the titular hitman Ah Jong and Danny Lee as the police detective Li Ying. To make the story from the perspective of someone who kills for money wasn't an easy task, and producer Choi Hawk was against the idea from the start. It took the help of Chow Yun-fat, who had become a star, partially thanks to his iconic performance in Woo's A Better Tomorrow, to make the film possible. In the end, Choi Hawk was very unhappy with it and wanted to change a lot of things. It wasn't the first time that Woo and him didn't see eye to eye. They collaborated before on A Better Tomorrow and its sequel, where they also had strong artistic differences. This resulted in Choi directing the third part himself and also not using Woo's original screenplay. A Better Tomorrow 3 was in fact shot at the same time as The Killer, and Woo's original screenplay was instead adapted into his own film Bullet in the Head, which is a pretty great war action movie. But coming back to Choi's wishes for The Killer. Since the production was on a very tight schedule, Woo and his editor David Wu didn't change anything, and going from the final film and its huge success, I would say this was for the better. The Killer opens up with Ah Jong getting his new mission from Fung Se, who is not just his triad manager, but also his close and probably only real friend. The scene is set in a church filled with hundreds of candles and other strong religious iconography. Wu himself is a Christian, but this is not really a religious film. It's more used as a spiritual background for the sins and souls of those men that kill and those that are killed. and we will come back to the church for the finale. In general, the film is filled with duplications, recurrences, and overall this idea of duality, the two men who start out on different sides but will unite in the end. As I've already mentioned, the editing is great, and not just in the action scenes, but also when the film is connecting and comparing those two men. There's one scene in which Detective Lee is investigating the apartment of Ah Jong, and he sits in the exact same spot as Ah Jong usually does. And Woo even cuts a small action moment that happened before into that scene, as if Lee would take Ah Jong's place. This motif of two people who are on opposite sides but are more similar to each other than they know or want to admit is recurring in many of Woo's films to different degrees. You will find it in Hard Boiled as well as in Face Off, where it is put to the extreme. Both Ah Jong and Li Ying have that one close friend who plays an important role in the film, and both have that one innocent person who gets injured or killed in their line of fire at the beginning. Right after the church scene, we witness Ah Jong assassinating dozens of other gangsters at a nightclub. And in an extremely stylish fashion, I must add. But at that shootout, he also accidentally injures a young singer. The muzzle flash of his gun damages the eyes of Jenny. He's struck with guilt and tries to care for her, and while doing so, both of them fall in love with each other, without Jenny knowing that it was him who has caused her injury. Li Ying on the other side is trying to get to Ah Jong by getting in contact with Jenny. There's an absolutely fantastic and at the same time hilarious scene in her apartment where both of them are having a Mexican standoff while at the same time trying to hide the fact that they are pointing guns at each other so that Jenny won't know about the danger and their true intentions. The killer is such an action rush and don't expect it to be realistic. It has a very real, very haptic feeling because of all the great stunt work and practical effects, but of course it's so exaggerated, stylized and over the top that you have to laugh about it too. But it's a good laugh. It's that kind of laugh that you can't hold back when something is that awesome and unbelievable. And of course it's all done in a very sincere yet melodramatic fashion. The pace of the film is nearly perfect and it has this great rhythm to it. You get some neat character moments and then the most action-packed shootout scene you can imagine. Then it's some story development and then again action deluxe. This is the way the film unfolds from beginning to end and there isn't a dull moment in it. The crazy thing is that all of the action sequences were kind of improvised in collaboration with the actor, stuntman and the stunt director. Now, improvised might be a loose term here, but what that means is that there were no storyboards for those scenes, which is absolutely baffling to me. Woo seems to work very freely in general, changing things at the last minute. This goes for the dialogue as well. The story in general isn't anything super unusual, apart from that rather comical idea with Jenny's eyesight, which is also coming back at the end of the film in an even more comical fashion. Many story beats are taken exactly from Jean-Pierre Melville's 1967 film Le Samouraï, about a hitman who's falling in love with a singer. He's risking his own life, his employers double-cross him, he's after money that was promised to him, and it also includes police detectives who try to get him by following the woman. It's indeed very similar, but it's perfect for John Woo to unleash this shootout spectacle. When I said that nothing is touching hard-boiled when it comes to the body count in the action genre, the killer really doesn't have to hide itself. In total there are roughly 120 people getting shot here, and it's a pure cinematic celebration of action. You could say that there are two finales, one small one at a beach house and a real one at a church. They fired about 20,000 rounds of ammunition at the beach house and about 40,000 rounds at the church, and it's simply remarkable to watch. John Woo is operating on a unique level in The Killer. He's a true artist. From the camera work to the staging, editing and of course all the stunts and effects. But thanks to the tight story, fleshed out characters and strong performances, it's more than just unbelievable style. Though it's also unbelievable style. So in German I'd say, The Killer ist spektakuläres, brutales und einfach wunderschönes Actionkino auf höchstem Niveau. Ein absolut wegweisender Film. I give The Killer 9 out of 10. It's more like 8.6, but I don't do that. Alright, that's it. Like always, comment below and let me know what you think about The Killer. And also let me know what is your favorite film by John Woo. You can hit me up on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram simply at The Jimmy Cage. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And make sure you hit that bell for all I have to tell.